latest installment in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, a franchise that has now outlived multiple Spider-Man, your childhood, and probably its own welcome. It's here, and it is Captain America: Brave New World. It's the latest edition in the Marvel cultural yo-yo, where enthusiasm and exhaustion take turns German suplexing each other into a giant cesspool of love and hate from the various fan bases and anti-fan bases. But first things first, this feels like a Disney Plus series that got lost on its way to the lab and accidentally ended up in theaters. And honestly, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not necessarily a bad movie, but it does have a weird just vibe to it that I shouldn't be watching this, that this is almost like a dream I have about watching the new Marvel movie, and this is what it is. But this is it. This is the latest addition to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it is one. I can't say it's bad. I can't say it's good. It exists.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. It's a movie that exists, and it's whether we like it or not, we're gonna have to, deal with the ramifications of this movie in the MCU going forward. And whether that be, no more no more Thunderbolt Ross, or, a new a new Captain America forming possibly, a new Avengers team in the future. But those are kind of those are probably some of the bigger takeaways of the movie. But there's a lot of stuff in this movie that I feel like I took away from this movie that, didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. There's certainly some dialogue choices and some, I don't know, I guess just like continuity moments in the movie that I feel like I probably have some gripes with. But overall, I thought that it was an installment of the MCU, and I'm still kind of juggling whether or not this is just like a what am I trying to say? It's whether it's a conflict of just like being kind of a sequel of a lost MCU movie that I've only seen a few times, or whether it be like a movie that it's kind of struggling between genres and struggling between like its identity of like what it should be. And I feel like all of that kind of shows in the final product.
Yeah, it's a strange film, and it led me to questioning, like, does Marvel actually like making money? When you're watching this, there are several points, several dialogue exchanges where it's like, wow, that would be a better movie if they just kind of ran with that little throwaway line that they just had. It would be a much better movie. You could have a much more intriguing title. I think you touched on it a little bit there. He's kind of asked to rebuild the Avengers. Like, that's a way cooler movie if it was Captain America than the new Avengers. And there's some symmetry with like the first Captain America calling it the first Avenger. You call it the new Avenger or whatever, and that's gonna make more money. So it was a very deliberate choice to go with this plot line. It's 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 tough to say if this movie needed to be made because there is so much universe like building in this. It is probably the most universe building we've gotten in a very long time. I guess you could say Quantumania before they basically revamped what the next Avengers was going to be. Quantumania was setting a lot of groundwork for what was to come.
Yeah.
But this is now doing that for a lot more of the main Earth-based cinematic universe, and it's kind of a mess. Like, this is supposed to be Anthony Mackie's first Captain America movie, Anthony Mackie's first movie, but it's also like his like eighth, ninth appearance in the universe, and he has a very solidified character. And in this movie, that character doesn't really develop much. You go from the start of the movie to the end of the movie, and Sam Wilson is kind of the same guy throughout. He kind of had his character arc already in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So this movie is, to me, a lot more of a Thunderbolt Ross movie, which
Yeah.
isn't necessarily a bad thing, but kind of strange given how this movie's kind of built up. I
Yeah.
don't know. Harrison Ford does a really good job. He has a full arc and he does a, in my opinion, pretty good performance for what I expected from Harrison Ford. And he's in a way a highlight, but he is very much the centerpiece of the entire plot.
Yeah, I think that for me, I was not totally sold on Harrison Ford throughout the whole movie, probably up until, you know, probably about halfway through the third act. I started kind of seeing him as Thunderbolt Ross. I mean, we even got some flashbacks of Harrison Ford like with the mustache as Thunderbolt Ross, and like didn't really even like that still didn't really help me, solidify him as Thunderbolt Ross to me. So it always still had that like, oh, this is Harrison Ford, other than this is Thunderbolt Ross, But I think towards the end, I think that he was good. I thought that his character arc, was probably the one that made the most sense out of the whole movie. Just him kind of struggling with like his heart health and having a strange daughter and all that stuff. I feel like was a good continuity of that character. And like you said, I think that he was a good centerpiece for the movie. But I just like with him being the centerpiece of the movie, I don't think that this should have been a Captain America movie.
Yeah, it makes me confused, like, the Thunderbolts as a movie. I think I'm more excited for that, but it's interesting that they've put so much stock into this, like, ecosystem of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, this, like, Bucky, Sam, and Ross, like, government
Yeah.
heroes. It's very it feels almost like, I don't know, the Boys, the way they set up the universe.
I like Okay, so there was a scene. I think they were both Sam and Joaquin were both walking down like a street or something, and I was like, why does this feel just like an episode of The Boys or something? Like it really feels like it's like set in like the Boys universe or something, where it's like it doesn't really feel like it has a lot of ramifications like what they're doing, but at the same time like they're dealing with the literal president of the United States.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the stakes are very high, but everyone's fairly casual about it.
Yeah.
I think the plot is not that confusing, but I don't know, I feel like the whole movie, they're, like, almost jerking themselves off of how, like, unpredictable the plot is when it's not unpredictable at all.
Yeah, and then they just find solutions for their problems right away. Like, there's so many moments in the scene. Yeah, there's so many scenes where they're like, "Oh, why is this happening?" And then like the scene where Joaquin was just like on the computer, and then he's like, "Oh, what's the cause of this?" And he's like, "I got it right here." And he's like, and then he's like, "Oh, I found exactly the other instances of where this happened in that other time." And it just all happened within an instance. And it was like they would present a problem, and then like a couple seconds later, they'd be like, "All right, we got it. We got the solution."
Yeah, I'm not gonna sit here like some YouTubers will and act like I'm some master in script writing, but I feel like the solution shouldn't be shorter than the explanation of the problem.
Yeah,
Hey, we're gonna take 2 scenes explaining a problem, and then it's gonna get fixed in 1 scene. Just feels like very much reshoots, and this movie did undergo reshoots. It had got completely destroyed at pre-screenings, and there was a lot of worry about if this film was gonna be one of the worst, or if not the worst MCU project to come out. I don't think it's that. If it is the case that it is really that bad before the reshoots, then this is an example of reshoots saving a film, which we don't really get because for all the complaints, this isn't a terrible film. It's not, like, incohesive, and I think even if you're someone that, like, disliked Quantumania, you'll probably like this movie. It's a lot more grounded. There's a there are more stakes to it, even though some of the stakes feel like exaggerated and then they're solved so quickly. Like we're basically on the edge of World War III in this movie and no one talks about it. They're like, "Oh, yeah, we just launched missiles at Japan. Like that's not one of the biggest deals in the world." let's just make sure we apologize to him and tell him that it was mind control or something, and
Yeah.
they'll be chill about it. And they end up being chill about it.
Yeah, and another thing that's like it is kind of what you're talking about, but looking back at like the other Captain America movies, like I feel like each other Captain America movie had like a significant like Marvel universe changing event. Like the first one, it was literally a world war, talking about like Red Skull and all of that. And then the second one was like the fall of Hydra and the fall of Shield, or the rise of Hydra and the fall of Shield. And then the third one was the Sokovia Accords and like the whole changing of the political system and like the whole changing of like the Avengers as we know it being dismantled. And like just following along with that, I know that they said, the Steve Rogers trilogy is different, but it's still a Captain America movie. And like you're saying, like they're kind of toying with that idea of it being like a huge event, but it never really truly gets to that point where we were at in Winter Soldier, where, all of Shield is crumbling down, and like they have to do something to, like, they're undercover in the shadows, and they have to do something to come out alive at any, like, for anything that they can do. And I think that, that's just kind of lost in this movie. And I think that that's probably where some of the kind of expectation of a Captain America movie is. And I think that that's probably why, it's not as well received as the other ones, I feel like.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. Like one thing you said there is this is a Captain America movie, and they could have done more to make it a Captain America movie. And why, like, if you remove the title, is this not more of a follow up to the Incredible Hulk?
Yeah.
This is the Incredible Hulk 2 with Sam Wilson. This is not a continuation of the Captain America trilogy. I know, like you said, they're saying it's its own thing, but there are minor characters that you could have brought to light from that series.
Yeah.
Of- Maybe you don't want to rehash Hydra, but there's other things you could do than just to not only bring, oh, we're gonna grab a side villain from the Hulk, and we're also gonna grab another side character from the Hulk, and it's all going to revolve around another side character from the Hulk. Ruffalo Mark Ruffalo's Hulk, Bruce Banner, he's only gonna get mentioned once explaining who, like, Thaddeus Ross's daughter is. Oh, that's Bruce Banner's girlfriend. But why is Bruce Banner not, like, in this movie? I don't understand.
Yeah.
If you wanna give Sam Wilson his own spotlight, that's fine, but why is he not here at the end to, like, be like, "Oh, dang, there's another Hulk."
Yeah, you'd think that he would be there. Yeah. And that's another gripe with my movies, the after credit scene. It's just like these after credit scenes the after credit scenes have just become another scene in the movie. Yeah.
I guess we'll just talk about it now. You sit through the entire credits. This isn't a mid-credit scene. This is you do the classic, how many after credit scenes are there in this movie? You see that there's one, and you wait through all of the credits, all of that, and you get the leader, or what's his name?
Yeah, the leader. They don't actually say it, but that's what his name in the comics is.
I know that,
Yeah.
like, having that knowledge before the movie
Yeah. Yeah.
ever explain, they say his first and last name, but, like,
Yeah.
okay. And I'll get into him in just a second, but the after credit sequence is him in the raft saying, "Oh, I've seen all the probabilities. There's danger coming, and there's other worlds." Like, what what is this revealing? Like, the after credit scenes used to reveal something,
Yeah.
whether it's Bucky is in custody, or, oh, there's the reveal that, you know, Harry Styles might play a character. Like, there's at least something to, like, get you intrigued. This is just telling us that the multiverse exists after we've experienced.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I guess even, like, I feel like the people on Earth know about the multiverse, like Spider-Man and all of them. They've and Doctor Strange, they've dealt with it. So the ground level don't need to know.
That's how they fixed the snap, other timelines, like,
Yeah,
I don't understand why they treated it like he had a classic little music cue of how sinister this thing is, and I don't know, this might be the worst villain. I think the only thing that would redeem this from being, like, the worst villain is if you considered Thaddeus Ross the villain, and if you do that, then it's not necessarily the worst villain. It's one of the more intriguing, but, like, kinda poorly executed ones.
yeah,
But if you just look at the leader as the villain, he's supposed to be this super smart guy, and he basically invents a way to free himself. He's free from his confinement, and he has blackmail on the most powerful man in the country, who's now the president, and he decides that he wants to blow all that up.
yeah,
Any leverage he has is gone. He ends this movie in the raft. He's like, why?
yeah,
So people can see Ross as a monster. Who cares? He's the president. People are already going to see him as a monster.
yeah. Anytime you have one of those villains that's like it can see the future, but like it can see every single possibility, it always creates such like a convoluted problem of like, okay, they have to be 10 steps ahead of every character in the movie. And that just like never happened in the like as he was just anticipating like he was just anticipating Captain America to find them and then to like at the end get Ross to turn into the Hulk, but like at the same time he like it didn't work out for him. So it's like everything that they say that his power is kind of just goes out the window and doesn't hold any water or have any like weight to it, you know?
I think, if anything, what this film does do is it gets me more excited for Thunderbolts. Like I did say, I feel like there is multiple lines in this movie that, like, oh, that would have been a more interesting movie. We find out that Bucky is campaigning to be a congressman. That sounds like I would love to follow Bucky on the campaign trail, and he has to deal with some things that come up, and that sounds like a more interesting movie than this. And then rebuilding the Avengers, that sounds like a more interesting movie than this. Instead, we got this weird mind control subplot about foreign affairs. I think if they just focused on the foreign affairs with adamantium, then that would have been a more interesting movie than this.
Yeah.
But instead, it's a very small part of this really messy script. And I don't think that's surprising, knowing about the reshoots and knowing about how many directions this project was pulled in. It kind of doesn't hit on anything, but it doesn't really fail completely on anything. So if it sounds interesting, I think it's worth a watch if you're someone that cares about the MCU, even if you're like you care just to see where it goes because you grew up watching it. That's kind of where I'm at this point. I grew up, I had, my teen years were very much caring about this stuff, and I'm interested to see what they do with it. But I don't know if this movie would warrant a watch on its own, if it stood by itself, but with the backing of the MCU, if that's something that interests you, I would see it because it did lay a lot of groundwork in terms of, like I said, adamantium, a lot of different things that will lead into more interesting stuff. But this movie itself, I don't know. I'd probably say like 5 out of 10, maybe 5.5 out of 10 if I'm feeling really generous. I think you predicted it early on that this is not going to be a movie with rewatchability, and I'd say that's going to be the case. I don't know if I'll ever pick this thing up again, but I don't regret watching it. It didn't feel too long. It did what it needed to do.
Yeah, for me, as the biggest Incredible Hulk fan on the planet, I'd say that this movie's a 10 out of 10. I think that, the return of the leader was one of the best moments in the MCU. I think that Red Hulk finally getting his light was probably, now my favorite MCU character. And, I just hope that they bring back Edward Norton too.
That's what we really need to save the MCU's Edward Norton. That's really the only thing that's missing. Honestly, we have we have a multiverse. Did you not hear the after credits?
Exactly.
Worlds. Like, why can't we have them both? I have 3 holes for a reason. Anyway, that is our review. Thank you for watching. If you did enjoy, please subscribe. Please like, comment what you thought of the film. If you think we're wrong about anything, please tell me. I enjoy being told I'm wrong, even though that I don't accept any criticism. But please put the criticism below, and I will work on accepting it. What do you got to say, Trent?
Thank you all for listening. I hope that you either didn't watch Captain America and still enjoyed this video, or did enjoy Captain America but also enjoyed the video. So thank you if you did either of those. And like Ty said, leave us a comment below telling us what you thought of the movie, and we will see you next week for hopefully a review of probably some Oscar movies.
Yep. And a shout out to anyone that saw Paddington in Peru instead. You're the real MVPs and the real winners of this whole thing.
Yep, thanks.
See ya.
Deuces.